Good evening. Thank you for staying with us on The Big Story this evening. We're looking at the state of Kenya's economy, and we are speaking to Musalia Mudavadi, leader ANC, but also a man who was at the helm of the finance docket in the Republic of Kenya. Sir, thank you for staying with us and indeed for speaking to us on The Big Story. So just before we took the break, we're talking about infrastructure-led economic growth. And this is where I want to pick your mind as well. Having been a former finance minister, sir, how would you have gone around the infrastructure aspect in terms of building or reviving Kenya's economy?
First of all, I think what we need to agree is that we should have gone more for concessional borrowing. In the last few years, the government has rushed for commercial borrowing because to them, there are limited conditionalities there. But in terms of concessional borrowing, because these are funds that you get from the World Bank, the IMF, the European Investment Bank, ADB, and so forth, they are usually more thorough in insisting on earning value for money. But what has happened is that for some reason, the government has programs under LAPSET, SGR, the dams, various roads, areas in the energy, and so many of them are being funded through commercial credit lines. This is going to be a heavy burden to the people of Kenya. And the way we are doing it means that it will not be long that the government of Kenya, and by extension the people of Kenya, will be forced to start renegotiating and rescheduling and restructuring their public debt. And some of this restructuring could come at a very heavy cost.
Okay. So let's talk about the debt ceiling. Kimani Ichung'wah says just because we've moved it up to 9 trillion doesn't mean that we'll take that amount of money. Initially, it used to be pegged on the GDP, 50%. So right now we're looking at 9 trillion. How dangerous or what does this portend for the country?
First of all, Linda, I think Parliament has failed Kenyans because they have not been scrutinizing the debt portfolio of Kenya carefully. And that is why I've been calling for an independent entity which can be trusted to give accurate information about Kenya's public debt. And one of the things that we should do as a country is even for Parliament to insist on a thorough audit of all our public debt. Make it available so that people can know what has past debt been all about and what are we intending. Because there is a very weak line of public disclosure on our debt portfolio. We were shocked, for instance, to find that around the Komorer Dam, there's a lot of payment that has been made in advance.
Yeah.
And they were talking about insurance being the factors and not the money going to the project itself. So these are the issues that I believe Parliament has failed us. And even the way they rushed into the ceiling from 7.5 trillion to 9 trillion, there was hardly any debate around it. And when I say they failed us, you found a situation where the opposition was complicit. The Jubilee government wanted it done. In fact, Duale did not even move the motion. He was quickly supported by Mbandi. Now, the issue here is that this debt is going to manifest in higher taxation to the people of Kenya. And we are already seeing symptoms. When you start saying that you are cutting the budget lines of essential areas like the judiciary, so that they are now closing and they're not able to do their things. So what happens to the war against corruption?
Mheshimiwa, yeah, that is what I was going to get to. When you have budget cuts, especially within the judiciary, receiving several notices, them just telling the public we may not be able to sit on this particular day because of the budget cuts. It's not good for a country like ours, is it?
Precisely, it's not good. And when the budget was being approved, the chairman of the budget committee and his team were part of it. So they cannot come back later after the horse has bolted to tell us that there is now realization that the budget figures they gave to Kenyans were faulty. This is really taking Kenyans for a ride. Okay,
so the debt ceiling is up to 9 trillion. You're saying Parliament has really let Kenyans down. You're already seeing the effects. The acting Treasury CS Ukori just outlining some of the budget cuts. But then the other part of Kenya, or there are other individuals out there who are really facing this. Those are millions of Kenyans out there. I did mention some of them have lost jobs. I did mention that some companies have closed shop. And we have, about 36% of Kenyans who live in poverty. So what would be your policy proposition in terms of maintaining infrastructural growth, but then ensuring that it trickles down and ensuring that we cut down on the number of unemployed Kenyans and raise the economy?
Basically, what we need to do is to have fiscal and monetary discipline. We must learn to spend what we have. That is the basic way I can put it.
We have
but
to,
if
yeah, go on.
We have to engage, yes, cut our cloth, cut our clothes according to the cloth that we have. We should not try and live beyond our means, basically.
Okay, I hear you.
Now, this can be done. This can be done if policies are thought through and there is adequate public participation, and we have a parliament that is responsive to the needs of the people, and not a parliament that has become the extension of the executive.
Okay. So there's one more thing that you alluded to, and a good number of leaders have also alluded to in the last couple of days, saying we wouldn't even be here if corruption was not an issue in this country. It has robbed us of billions out here, and unless we address it, we will not go anywhere. Do you get the feeling from where you sit, and I know you've spoken about this, that the Jubilee administration is keen on fighting corruption?
Well, I think they should show a lot of goodwill by restoring the budget of the judiciary. That would be one big message, that they are committed to fighting the corruption in this country. But if you are making it impossible for the judiciary, and by extension the DPP and the other investigative agencies to do their work, then a lot of cases are going to lie idle and they'll be forgotten.
Okay. So I specifically did not get a second guest because I wanted you to help me answer some of the questions that Kenyans have on social media. Vincent Kaduki says, on unemployment, politicians have always used it as a campaign tool to woo voters. Now we're experiencing layoffs and company closure, increasing the rate of unemployment. What would be the way forward? What advice can he give the government? I
think, as I said, our policies must be right. Let me give an example of the SGR and the dock workers and the port of Mombasa.
Yeah.
Now, here we are, okay? We have put up the SGR. Then we also had a logistics industry, which has the trucks, the lorries, And then these people employ mechanics, they employ drivers, they employ loaders. They also have container freight stations, employing thousands of people at the coast. Now you say you have put up the railway. That is good. But if I want to ferry my container from Mombasa to Nairobi, if the railway is charging me 150,000 Kenya shillings on the SGR to deliver a container in Nairobi, and the lorry trucker is charging me 80,000 to deliver it to my gate, but you are forcing me to take my container to the railway, that should be a commercial decision. It should not be a state-enforced decision.
And we've seen a couple of protests in Mombasa as well. Businessmen there saying you're killing our economy.
Now,
Mombasa is a dead city. Yep.
Precisely. Yeah, thank you, Linda. And now when that is happening, how many people are being laid off? The multiplier effect of all those people being shut down. So these are issues that need to be reflected upon, because if we continue to see massive layoffs, and I'm still on Mombasa, and the people cannot feed their children, the ones who are in those dockyards and in the container freight stations, they will seek alternative ways which may be criminal. And what happens to tourism by extension? So these are issues that we must reflect on as a nation. And let me just go further and say the cost of living is such that unless we look at ourselves carefully, we are actually investing in poverty as a nation rather than in growth. Take the person who leaves Kibra every morning, Mogaka or Otieno to industrial area. Works in a company, maybe his wages per day, 800 to 1,000 shillings if they're lucky. He pays 140 for transport, 30 shillings for his uji, 50 shillings for airtime. He has to go home, feed his family, 140 for food in a day. And then this same person is expected to be comfortable and to continue showing patriotism. Kenyans are hurting, and we need to look at these things, create more employment, revive Mumia's Sugar Company, cut down the cost of energy in this country so that factories can manufacture at reasonable costs, not at the very high cost of energy that we are seeing.
Okay, I hear you.
And I could go on and on of saying that we need to work out.
I hear you, Mheshimiwa, but unfortunately because of time, I need to wrap this up. So just one final comment. You have one supporter on social media says, I like how articulative Musalia Mudavadi is. Honestly, he's very composed and issue-based. You've got lots of feedback as well. Kenyans just raising their concerns as well, agreeing largely with you. So Matthew Zondoro said, just imagine a country where everybody has a debt of 100,000. Even the government should be in CRB. This is crazy, as Chinese government is laughing all the way collecting their money. So lots of feedback on social media. You can just follow up on our Twitter handle or my Twitter handle at Linda Ogutu or at KTN News. You should be able to get part of the feedback as well on the conversation we've had this evening. A very big thank you to Musalia Mudavadi, ANC leader, once served as the finance minister, former finance minister, Republic of Kenya. So thank you for your time, for being part of the big story. Perhaps This is a conversation that we need to have very often to make sure we can get the solutions. Very big thank you as well to our lead reporter, Sophia Wanuna, who spoke to Kimani Shungwa. This has been The Big Story. I'm Linda Ogutu.
This is KT.